This is our moment of truth, and we cannot be found wanting. The challenges before us are the greatest of our lifetimes. An economy that works too well for too few and not at all for too many more. A healthcare system where millions are unable to see a doctor or be well enough to live to their full potential. And the last best hope of averting the catastrophe that will follow additional climate change, fading before our very inaction. We must overcome these challenges, but we must first ask ourselves how this, the wealthiest, the most powerful country on the face of the planet, the most powerful country that world history has ever known, has found itself in such a perilous position. For too long in this country, the powerful have maintained their privilege at the expense of the powerless. They have used fear and division in the same way that our current president uses fear and division. Based on the differences between us of race, of ethnicity, of geography, or religion, to keep us apart, to make us angry, to make us afraid of ourselves and of one another. Unrestrained money and influence has warped the priorities of this country. It has corrupted our democracy. It has invited the cynicism and the distrust and the disengagement of millions of our fellow Americans who see their very own government enthralled to those who can pay for access and for outcomes. A vigorous democracy, both political and economic, is the only check against this inertia of power, the only way to free our institutions of their capture and corruption, and the only means by which we can lift the voices and the lives of our fellow Americans. But when the safeguards of this democracy are manipulated by those in power, when members of Congress can choose their own voters, when the Supreme Court decides that corporations are people and money is speech, when PACs and special interests can buy the outcomes of elections and legislation, and when voting rights are not expanded, they are functionally withdrawn, then we run the risk of becoming a democracy in name only. And the idea that we are founded on the principle that we are all created equal to equal opportunity is justifiably seen as a lie to those who've experienced gross differences in opportunity and outcome when it comes to education or healthcare or economic advancement or justice. So, whatever our differences, where you live, who you love, to whom you pray, for whom you voted in the last election, let those differences not define us or divide us at this moment. Let's agree, going forward, before we are anything else, we are Americans first. We are Americans first, and we will put the business of this country before us. So, if you believe in guaranteed, high-quality, universal health care, because you have seen the cost and the consequence of millions of our fellow Americans who have no health care or do not have enough health care, then let us come together around a policy that begins by prioritizing affordability in prescription medications, that ensures that we bring down the cost of our premiums and our deductibles, and in a country where too many of our fellow Americans are dying of diabetes in the year 2019, dying of the flu, dying of curable cancers, in a community, in a state, in a country where one of the largest providers of mental health care services is the county jail system, and in a nation that is in the midst of a maternal mortality crisis 3 times as deadly for women of color, then let us ensure that universal health care means all of us can see a primary care provider, all of us can get mental health care help, and that universal care means every woman makes her own decisions about her own body. We can give every American, every business in this country the choice to enroll in Medicare without eliminating plans that many Americans like for their families because those plans work for their families. Everyone able to see a doctor, everyone able to afford their prescription, everyone able to take their child to a therapist. No one left behind, no one priced out. We must get to universal, guaranteed, high-quality health care as soon, as surely as we possibly can. If we believe in an economy that works for all, we want to make sure that everyone has the chance to advance, then let's begin with the very youngest among us and invest in a world-class public school system, pre-K to 12, everywhere, in every community. And then, let's do this. Let's pay our teachers what they are worth, a living wage. There is no reason that any educator, any teacher should be working 2 or 3 jobs when they have the most important job in front of them, unlocking that lifelong love of learning within every single child. Once we do that, there's no stopping those kids. There is no stopping this country. And when they graduate from high school, let's make sure that they are both college ready and career ready, ready to go on to debt-free higher education, and ready to go to a job that provides purpose and pays a real paycheck. Speaking of that, let's also insist that we will not continue to diminish the power of unions. We will strengthen unions in this country. Unions who insist that one job should be enough for every single American. Unions who will help us to provide apprenticeships not just for that young woman or young man graduating from high school, but for that parent who has finished raising their kids, for that worker whose job has been automated out of existence. Apprenticeships ensure that we have the skills and the trades that command a living salary for the rest of your life. So let's strengthen those unions going forward. And in rural America, if we want to lift up rural America, let's begin by listening to rural America. Let's partner with them in investing in hospitals, in schools, in infrastructure like broadband internet, and then let's ensure that every farmer, every rancher, every grower, every producer can make a profit as they grow what feeds and clothes not just America, but so much of the rest of the world. And those farmers, like anyone else, wants to make sure that we are meeting the challenge of climate change before it is too late. Let's open up technologies and markets to them that provide an incentive for capturing the carbon that we're currently emitting in the air. I want to make sure that your gender, that your race, that your family does not prevent you from advancing in this economy. So let's do a few things. Let's pay women equal to what men make in this country. Let's sign into law paid family leave for every single family in this country. Let's ban workplace discrimination. And let's do this. Let's make sure that there is access to capital for communities who have effectively been shut out of access to capital, home loans, and the ability to build wealth in this country for generations. And if we believe in justice for all, in the face of the largest prison population per capita on this planet, one disproportionately comprised of people of color, then we must do the following. Not only end the federal prohibition on marijuana, not only expunge the arrest records of everyone arrested for possession of something that is legal in more than half the country. We must not only end cash bail and for-profit prisons in the United States of America, but we must also confront the legacy of certain communities who have been criminalized and kept down based on the color of their skin. Confronting the legacy and the consequences of slavery and segregation and the continuing suppression of our fellow Americans is the only way that we will begin to repair the damage and keep ourselves from committing the same injustices. And if we truly believe that we are a country of immigrants and asylum seekers and refugees, and they are the very premise of our strength, of our success, and yes, our security, then let us free every single dreamer from any fear of deportation. Let's bring millions more out of the shadows and onto a path to contribute to their maximum potential to the success of this country. Let's not only follow this country's asylum laws, but let's make sure that we never take another child from another mother at their most desperate and vulnerable moment. Let us reunite every single one of those families that are still separated today. And let's remember that every single one of us, including those who are just 3 or 4 blocks from here, detained under the international bridge that connects us with Mexico, behind chain link fence and barbed wire, that they are our fellow human beings and deserve to be treated like our fellow human beings. We will find security, not through walls, not through militarization. We will find security by focusing on our ports of entry that connect us to the rest of the world, so we have a better idea of who and what is coming in here, and we facilitate the trade and travel connected to millions of jobs around this country. We will support our CBP officers, our Border Patrol agents. We will treat every single American with the dignity and respect that they are owed as Americans and as human beings. And if we are really serious about security, we have a golden opportunity, Republicans, independents, Democrats alike, to work on comprehensive immigration reform, to rewrite this country's immigration laws in our own image, with our own values, and in the best traditions of the United States of America. For all of the veterans here in El Paso, a community that has distinguished itself in service to country, going back to Marcelino Serna in World War I, an undocumented immigrant who went over to France with the U.S. Army and came back the most highly decorated veteran from the state of Texas, to the Bolaños brothers in Vietnam, to every man and every woman who right now has their life on the line for this country. If we truly appreciate your service, not only will we make sure that we make the investments in the VA to care for you when you return from having borne the battle, especially for those conditions connected to service in combat, post-traumatic stress disorder, traumatic brain injury, military sexual trauma. We will also ensure that there is a roof over the head of every single veteran who's sleeping on the streets tonight. And then, if we really mean it, we will ensure that this country does not start yet another war before every peaceful, diplomatic, non-violent alternative is explored and pursued. And those wars that we ask our fellow Americans, these service members, to fight on our behalf, 17 years and counting in Afghanistan, 27 years and counting in Iraq. Let's bring these wars to a close and bring these service members back home to their families, to their communities, and to their country. If, after 300 years, after the Enlightenment, we can still listen to and believe the scientists, and I for one do, who tell us that thanks to our own emissions, our own excesses, and our own inaction, this planet has warmed 1 degree Celsius just since 1980. And the fires, and the floods, and the droughts, and the man-made natural disasters will only get worse if this planet warms another degree Celsius. And this is our moment, with little more than 10 years to spare, to do everything in our power to free this economy from a dependence on fossil fuels, greenhouse gas emissions, and to ensure, as we make the investment in new technologies and renewable energy, that everyone has the chance to benefit from this new economy, especially those communities, lower income and too often of color, that have borne the brunt of climate change so far. This country has shown that we can do it. When the Western world faced the existential threat of Nazi Germany more than 80 years ago, this country harnessed the political will of hundreds of millions here of the Western democracies, not only to win that war, but for the following 80 years to make this world safe for democracy and to lift millions in this country into the middle class. This is our opportunity right now to do something for a far greater existential threat, to do more not just for those here with us today, but for the people of the future, our kids and grandkids and every generation that succeeds them. We have to once again reassert our role on the world stage in order to do this. But if we're going to do that, we've got to strengthen these historic friendships and alliances, so many of them forged in sacrifice, the service of men and women who put their lives on the line and lost their lives to this country. Let's make sure that that sacrifice was not squandered. Let's make sure that we strengthen those alliances. Let's end these love affairs with dictators and strong men all over the world. Let's earn the respect of the people around the world, not just by how we treat those in other countries, but how we treat those within our country, and how we treat those who are at the border of our country. If we do that, we can make sure that we once again become the indispensable nation, convening the other nations of this planet around some of our shared challenges, like climate change, like nuclear disarmament, like ending all of these wars that we are currently engaged in. We can do for ourselves what no other country can, and we have an opportunity at this moment to reprioritize this hemisphere, those countries and people who are literally connected to us by land. We can try to solve the problems of Central America here at our front door at the Texas-Mexico border, or we can invest in the opportunities to help the people of Central America where they are at home. It is our choice. But to do any of this, we've got to understand that our country's success depends on the success of this democracy. It is the single greatest mechanism that humankind has ever devised to call forth the power, the potential, and the genius of a people around their challenges and their opportunities. And so, every single citizen must be able to vote, and every vote must count. As president, I will sign into law a new Voting Rights Act. Together, we will end gerrymandering. We will get big money out of our politics. And all across this country, we will have automatic and same-day voter registration. That's how we're going to do it. But a full political democracy is only possible if we vigorously pursue a true economic democracy. Every child, every man, every woman in this country must be able to see a future for themselves in this country. Otherwise, this country will have no future as a democracy. That means that this extraordinary, unprecedented concentration of wealth and power and privilege must be broken apart, and opportunity must be shared with all. Si queremos enfrentar los retos del cambio climático, el cuidado de salud por todos y de la reforma migratoria, necesitamos una democracia en que podemos contar en cada voto y podemos escuchar a cada voz. Además, necesitamos una economía en donde cada persona puede tener el prospecto de éxito independiente de su género, de su raza, de las cuantas generaciones su familia tiene adentro o afuera de los Estados Unidos. El éxito de este país depende del éxito de cada persona dentro de los Estados Unidos. We will not allow ourselves to be defined by our fears or our differences. Instead, we shall be known forever after by our ambitions, our aspirations, the resolve, the creativity, the service, and the sacrifice that we brought to bear in order to achieve them. Our ability to campaign in this way with people, not corporations or PACs, but people who come together not only to ensure that we win the nomination, not only to ensure that we defeat Donald Trump in November of 2020, but people in every state, in every territory, from every walk of life, coming together to show that the power of people is what is necessary for us to accomplish our priorities. I am so grateful to be able to run to serve you as the next president of the United States of America. And I am so grateful for every one of you who has joined or will join this campaign and sacrifice some part of your life towards the success of this great country. Together we can make sure that America fulfills its promise for ourselves, for each other, and for every generation that succeeds us. Thank you, El Paso. Thank you, everyone. God bless you, and God bless America. Thank you.